Yeah, welcome everyone. Good morning from Melbourne. Uh, Thanks, Catherine, for holding that information for another extra week. And yeah, I'm literally waiting to know what are the other skills I can improve in order to get into that market, environment or ecosystem. Thanks. Over to you, Catherine.
Hi, everybody. I'm based in Boston. Unlike Matt and Lakshmi, so I'm ending my day here as some of the team are starting theirs, and so happy to share with you some thoughts. I have been working with a team in Marketing Cloud for the past 7 years. I will tell you in all honesty, I'm not in the tool directly myself on a day-to-day basis, but I have gleaned enough over the years to know some things that are hopefully useful to everybody else. But then, certainly, as a leader of team, a lot of the skills that we look for upon hiring and things that I find to be useful every day, whether it's myself in trying to work with others or with the folks that are on the team that we are hiring. So, with that, uh, this is me. This is what we're talking about. So I work for a company named Bright Horizons. In for the folks in Australia, you may know us as All About Children, only about children. Um, and we do mainly two different things. So we provide care for children and families in the form of childcare centers. We've got about 1,000 of them worldwide. And then we also provide benefits for our employers. And as part of that, we last year sent 54 million emails through Marketing Cloud. We also use Pardot, and we do our B2B work through the Pardot tool. And we have at Bright Horizons in the US a team of 8 people that are working on marketing automation programs. So that's just on the send side of things. And then we have a CRM team for the customer marketing and the strategy that is another 8 people. So a good sized team that are using these platforms to communicate with a variety of audiences every day. And as part of working with these 2 platforms and a larger digital team, I'm passionate about a few things. And I add this here because I think that this is a really good sort of place to start for people that are interested in growing whatever their career turns out to be, is figuring out what you're passionate about and then looking for career options and opportunities that are going to help you to use those passions every day and to really keep you excited about your role and about what you're doing, so that the thing called the Monday scaries hopefully doesn't happen to you. And so it took me a while to really figure out what these were. I will tell you that I didn't do so in my 20s and didn't think a lot about this, but as I've evolved my own career, this has been a focus for me. So I love solving problems, and it's something that in this particular arena I think is a skill set. Talking about transferable skills, that people will find something that is very valuable and something that you should cultivate. So this is a big one for me, and it's one of the reasons that digital marketing fits so well into what I love doing. Love asking questions, especially the hard ones. I don't shy away from them. And I find that I often ask the questions that others are afraid to ask. And so I am somewhat known at this point for asking people's questions for them, because they know that I'm not going to shy away from doing so. I also am lucky enough to work with an amazing team here, about 30 folks on my team. And so the job that I consider is mine and I take incredibly seriously is growing them in their careers and removing the roadblocks that help them to do their jobs. So a Steve Jobs quote, hire smart people and let them do their jobs. I wholeheartedly believe in that. Make it easier for them to do so. And if you are smart, as you're doing that, you will take advantage of the opportunity to learn from them and what they know each and every day. So that is something that I hopefully do. And then always look beyond what the particular ask is. So this one as well is a very transferable skill. You might be asked to send out an email. Doesn't really matter what the topic is, but think about the process for sending that email. Is there something that is then automatable or transferable, scalable to the next project so that you don't have to start from scratch every time? Always be looking for what you can be doing that is going to bring value to that next project. So that's a little bit about sort of what drives me and some of the how, and that takes us into some of these very tactical skills and tangible skills, I think, that are worth really starting early in your career and following through. So none of these are a one and done. None of them are something that you can put on the shelf. But I think it's definitely worth starting right at the resume and LinkedIn. LinkedIn is something that does take work. They are constantly adding new things to their platform. And there is something called an all-star status. You don't really see it when you have it, but you do see it when you don't have it. So I'm hopefully going to try something that works. Can you all see my my LinkedIn view now?
Yes, Catherine.
Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to take you to my own profile. And if there's anybody that's not on LinkedIn, that would be the first commentary is get onto LinkedIn as quickly as you can. My status here, I actually have what's called an all-star profile, and that is not that I am at all anything special. What that actually means is I have just followed all the steps that LinkedIn has laid out for me. And it's very easy to process to go through when you're editing. They have done an amazing job at making it very simple to add things, to look at their ongoing options. If you are not already, I would highly recommend that you enable what is called creator mode, wherever it is down here. Creator mode is what puts these 3 hashtags here, and they move things around. Okay, I'm obviously not going to find it on the fly. This is why you never demo live for those in the tech space. But you want to make sure that you have enabled creative mode. And that's also what it's going to add here is this followers function in addition to your connections number. You can then put your content up here. People that just find you're saying something interesting can be following you. You don't have to connect with them, but it increases the visibility of your profile and everything that you are sharing here. Definitely in an aid of support of DE&I. It would encourage you to record your name, which is what this little icon here is beside my name, and add your pronouns if you are so inclined to be welcoming and make folks feel comfortable in working with you. But the LinkedIn profiles will change. They put out an update probably every month or so. And a couple of key things with their algorithm that are important are posting frequency, the way that comments are added, and the timing of those. You always want to have a header image. I happen to work for a company right now, so I'm responsible for our website. So I've got a picture of our website up here as my header image. You want to have a head and shoulders headshot, not something that's, clipped from a wedding or night out with friends where it's in a group, because the way that this often is viewed is you can see this teeny tiny picture here. in something that size. So you still want it to be visible. Here's another example of the size that it might be. So you still want it to be a visible, recognizable version of you, so that people understand that this is a professional medium and how they can access you. I'm going to just go back to our slides here. I put a link in specifically around a LinkedIn checklist. So this is very formulaic. And I happen to follow Neil Schaefer. He's a big name in the marketing business. And he's got a great checklist out there. So, if you're so inclined, visit that link and or look up LinkedIn checklist and Neil Schaefer, and you will find this image that's on the side of the screen with a lot of really very straightforward recommendations to follow. And one of the key things about LinkedIn, so I do a training inside my own company for folks on optimizing their LinkedIn profile. And one of the things that is most difficult for people is the style of writing for LinkedIn. And it is very different than your resume. And depending on who you are and how braggatory you are, it can be really difficult to write in the LinkedIn style, which is, I did this, I am responsible, I made X millions of dollars in revenue. It's all in that first party, which I can tell you firsthand from the leader of a team, I typically speak about we and the team and what we have collectively accomplished, but the style of LinkedIn is all very much about you as an individual. So it can be helpful to read a few LinkedIn profiles before you're looking to write and update your own. So I'm now going to go backwards on this slide and speak to resumes. That is different than the style of a resume, where it is very factual, it's very concise. Often there is not a lot of speaking about the who. It's all focused on the what. I would say there are a couple of key things with respect to resumes. Always have somebody else proofread for you, at least one person, to ensure there are no typos. Optimize around keywords for the so in this particular case, that would be things like email, marketing automation, Salesforce Marketing Cloud, deliverability, perhaps. Definitely want to have in stats on the accomplishments. So I mentioned at the top of this that we sent 54 million emails. So that adds credibility to the size of our program. But if you've got other stats on click-through rates or revenue generated as a result of the program, industry-leading unsubscribes, things like that, always good to have those in your resume. And an important thing is you want to, and this is unfortunate, but in today's world, you want to be optimized for an applicant tracking system. And what that means is your resume is likely not going to be read by a human as the first set of touch points. It's probably going to go through an ATS system, which is scanning for some of those keywords, is determining broad applicability and whether or not you even make it into the queue for either the hiring manager or if a larger company, their talent acquisition team. And then you would get a human looking at you. That's where some of those explanations come in the style of writing. So just some tips as somebody that's done a ton of interviewing of potential new hires, and I've looked at thousands of resumes at this point. There are some things that definitely do pop out. An image on your resume, your headshot on your resume, color, those types of things really, really do not matter. Very simple formatting. You can do a search on a modern resume if you want to see. You'll see some things that start to come up consistently, and it's a great place to start. Anybody with questions on either of those?
Just following along with you, Catherine, I sort of get the CV thing 100%. Back before we all sort of had the internet, I can remember working at organisations and you'd advertise, especially for graduate positions, you'd advertise for the position and you'd literally in a couple of days have 150 applications. And to be honest, I would look at the first 25 that came in first. I'd say, okay, I can't look at all these. I'm not even going to bother. Most of them just get printed, put in the bin. And then yeah, you're looking for those keywords, and you're looking for people that just 100% match. I've got a little thing that I do. Let's even I do it with my own CV. I keep it really short. It's a 2-pager, and you actually print it out both sides. Here's my CV. It's on one page, and I figure if anyone's really interested, they're going to get back to me. It's full of keywords and stuff. So I think be tactful with what you're saying, and don't be flowing with the words. Just get to the point very quickly. Those numbers are so important. 100% agree with what you're saying. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely agree. There's no reason that your resume should be over 2 pages. A lot of people think, oh well, it's all digital now. It doesn't matter. I've see 3, 4, 5-page resumes, and unless you're I don't know, Gandhi or Obama or somebody, there's no reason to tally up all the things that you've done over the course of your career. That 2 pages is going to get across the high level value that is enough for somebody to say, wow, they get it. They fill this gap that I need, or they don't.
Yeah, and it also goes back to your social proof about who you are. You're talking about LinkedIn. The link to LinkedIn, if they want to learn more, the person reading wants to learn more, the social proof says it's important to use that as a teaser. Here's who I am. But if you really want to see me, what I'm really all about, here's a history of me for the last X number of years, which I've been collating into LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever social platform. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a key thing as well, is don't forget your social platforms come into play here. So you may think of them as your personal release, or that's where you catch up with friends. So I would encourage anybody that is in the job hunting market, or just depending on the job that you might have, make sure that you're marking those profiles as private, so people cannot see what you're up to. If you may choose that you have a particular political opinion that you want to share on Facebook to your friends or groups that you belong to. A potential employer might not share those. Doesn't mean you shouldn't have your opinions and that you're not free to share them, but it also doesn't mean that you necessarily want that to be a gating factor in getting a new role. So consider locking down what might be on shareable and available on social media.
Yeah, religion and politics are sometimes no-nos to share in a work environment. Yep.
Yeah. So this next quote, this is Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know if anybody's familiar with VaynerMedia. He started as a wine broker, but has moved into the media space. Tremendous following in marketing. He's a gentleman that I would encourage you to follow. But I love this quote, and I think it's particularly important in the marketing automation, marketing cloud space, because I find my team so often is really going down the path of solving puzzles. And this is actually a question that I ask as part of the interview process. And if somebody, doesn't have anything to say about puzzles, or is maybe a video gamer, there are just certain hobbies that I've found that people tend to have an affinity for or like. And that really comes into play with that problem solving when you've got a SQL query where you just can't figure out why it's not working. You've got to find that missing paren, or you've got entrance criteria that you're working on with folks to make sure that you get to the right set of your audience that you're trying to reach. these may not, it might not be your father's great jigsaw puzzle, but these are puzzles to solve, and they are problems to solve nonetheless. And so it's a leading indicator of folks that I've seen be really successful in the space. Another thing it is similar to that is the 5 whys. So if you haven't heard of the 5 whys, you can Google it. It's very straightforward. It basically is, don't stop with the first why. It's really get to the root of something. Why is our email not working? Well, because we didn't have the right criteria. Well, why did we not have the right criteria? Well, we didn't ask the right questions. Well, why did we not ask the right questions? So it gets down to that root of what's really going on, and helps you, learn for future and not replicate that again down the line. Also, are you comfortable with data? Digging into the data after an email send happens, or in that list that you're building to determine who it's going to go to beforehand. This is a skill set that we really cultivate on my team, and make sure that folks have comfortability with our very complex data set. We've got about 11 million people in our database that are available to gain services from us. And that's not including anybody that might be prospects, but these are people that are due to have benefits provided to them by their employer. And so we segment those in different ways. We know various things about these people because we own and operate childcare centers. It could be incredibly specific data about someone's family and their child, and it could be right down to the brand of diapers that their child wears, and they're allergic to strawberries. And other people, we may be just getting introduced to them and we don't know anything about them. So we really are looking at a variety of data in terms of their behaviors, taking into account the global privacy laws that we have to deal with and how we can contact people. So really having a solid experience with data, and always being interested in learning more. And that takes us on to our next one, which is, you're never going to be done. And if you think you are done with your learning, then you're probably in the wrong field, because the digital space, this quote is downright scary to me from one of the execs at Google, but the digital space is not going to be the same literally tomorrow as it is today. And so you have to, in order to provide value to both your career and to your employer, you have to be staying up with everything that is changing in the environment. So in that respect, what about your organization is different today? What about the technology that your team uses is different today or is changing? Are there new feature sets that are released that you should or can make use of? Become the expert on those and share with the rest of your team or with someone else within the organization. What's a new tech that you don't own, but maybe is free, or maybe you could consider, so that you're always staying ahead of the curve, even if it's something that you cannot purchase today or you cannot bring in. How could that change your organization, and what are you doing? So part of that is making sure that you read a lot and as frequently as you can. And that's another sort of hobby that we tend to talk about within our team. We've got some internal book clubs. We've got a lot of steadfast readers. You do not need to be a book reader, but somebody that stays up on the news and is following along with conversations as they're unfolding is going to play in a couple of ways. So I've just got some folks that I follow. All of these people, you can either follow them directly and engage with them, or you can do so right within LinkedIn where it's super helpful. But couple of these people are specifically related to either Salesforce or Marketing Cloud. A couple of folks that are really more of a leadership type of creator, and then a couple of companies in here as well. And so you see HubSpot here on the bottom. I mentioned them for a particular reason, and this also relates back to that resume comment and getting started in this business. So I talked to my team of the folks that are actively using marketing automation, and asked them how each one of them got started, because they are all now multi-year users of Marketing Cloud or Pardot or both. And not a single one of them started from scratch in Marketing Cloud. They all had experience in what I'm going to say is a simpler, more easy to adopt platform. In some cases, that was HubSpot. HubSpot does an amazing job of putting out really good email content in general. So they're a great one to follow just to see what's happening in the email space. But they can be a platform that's much easier to get started with. And by easier, I mean, yes, easier to use, but be easier to find somebody that is a business or a charitable organization that is using it. And so to get some skills under your belt with a functioning platform, HubSpot can be an easier way in than trying to start and break in to a company that's using Marketing Cloud. Another way that folks mentioned that they had gotten started with Marketing Cloud was working with an agency. So they may have been with a marketing agency using some type of a marketing platform, and were able to then, many agencies use multiples because they use the platforms that are associated to their clients, and they were able to work their way onto a Marketing Cloud account. So some of those folks had been longtime users, and they definitely were using it in the time that it was Exact Target before it made the transition to being Marketing Cloud. Some are relatively new, and they had come in as similarities between those platforms at a strategic level. The nuances are different. The AMP script is different. But a lot of skills from other email platforms are definitely transferable. And that would be another recommendation for that resume, is if you've got use using another automation platform, to highlight that just as highly as you're going to focus on Salesforce Marketing Cloud. There are many organizations like ours that are using multiple platforms, and we do look at many of these skills as being transferable. And following along in the email space in general, reading the Salesforce report, for example, on marketing, following Litmus is another great one for email status, and a lot of industry stats are really great ways to stay up to date on the platforms in general and how organizations are using them and evolving. Love to hear if anybody on the call has folks that they'd recommend that I should follow, or the rest of us should follow and look at, or companies that maybe we haven't mentioned right here.
I think it's a great question, and you mentioned Neil. It's definitely somebody that I follow him on Twitter, so I keep up to date with him there. But look for people. I think it goes back to that LinkedIn or Twitter profile. You look for people that have got a heap of people following them, and you know that they've got quality content. So that's a key for me when I'm looking for people to follow. But yeah, it's a pretty good list. It's almost an exercise in its own right. Who are the gurus to follow? I actually caught up with Gilda for the first time. It's Australia World Tour, Sydney, last month, and actually, it was earlier this month, and it was just a privilege to catch up with her and the remarkable work that she does in the community just to help with
Yeah.
moving things along.
Yeah,
Um,
Gilda's fantastic.
yeah.
She's absolutely fantastic, and she's the one that got away, if you will, Matt. I tried to hire her a few years ago when she was at Athena Health. This was before she went to Salesforce, and we just couldn't close the deal, and she ended up at Salesforce, and it's definitely been for the greater good for sure. She's doing some amazing things, especially for women of color. It has been really, really nice to see, the visibility that she's bringing and some of the things that she's working on. Highly recommend folks following her stream on LinkedIn, and she'll have great insight for you on upcoming events and guides and all kinds of content that Salesforce is putting out as well.
I think what Gilda also gives us is a reality check on our differences. We all struggle with things that make us different. I know I do. I'm not a small guy, so I consider myself to be in that fat category, and sometimes that can get in the way of myself. And having people that sort of break the ice in terms of the things that we find that can hold us back, she just does an amazing job at that, and I just so glad that we do have her in the community. HubSpot, I like that too because I follow them as well. They're on my email list. Definitely, they've got some remarkable content.
Yeah, they really do, and they really do a nice job of it's I can tell you as a hiring manager, it's frustrating as well, because those of you that are investing the time and the effort into learning Marketing Cloud and all that goes into using it, it is a sophisticated platform, and it is far more difficult than the low barrier of entry, I'll call it, to getting used to using and spun up on HubSpot. And so it is almost laughable here in the United States. I happen to be based in Boston. HubSpot is based in Boston. So pretty much every resume that comes in the door of any open position that we have, the person will exclaim that they are an email guru and their experience is solely with HubSpot. To which my team just shakes their head and said, "Oh, if only you knew," because it is a low barrier entry product. It's definitely a gateway to an Adobe or to a Marketing Cloud. That it just are another world of difficulty.
It's interesting you mentioned that it's a low entry. I guess the thing with Salesforce Marketing Cloud, the customer buys it because they trust it, and it's an enterprise product, and it has a price that reflects that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it does make it hard to get started with the platform. But like you say, HubSpot, the things that you do in the platform, it's what's done in the other platforms. There's more bells and whistles in Marketing Cloud for aligning to corporate structures and the like, whereas some of the other products have got more of a single view of the audience. You've got more of a list-based approach, which is where Exact Target came from originally too, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
We don't use it in Marketing Cloud anymore because we've got data extensions and that's SQL. But there's lists buried deep down in there which show the origin of the product as well. It came from the same place as all the others, MailChimp, HubSpot. They all bubbled up in the same type of era with the same trying to fill the same needs. Marketing Cloud just got called out a little bit by Salesforce, I guess, and it's got more there. But I totally agree with your point about get started on a platform that you can afford. Another one's Mortec. That's open source. It's written in PHP, and look, if you've got a little bit of tech going for you, you can get into that. It's not going to be as advanced as HubSpot, but it'll still give you a look at how a marketing automation platform works with sending emails and the like.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And in in the Boston area, again, I can speak to the sort of the northeast part of the US, because we do try to hire folks that could make it into our office. We've had to expand our hiring radius during the pandemic, but the Marketing Cloud skill set is not one that is readily available. And as big as Salesforce is, and as many Salesforce admins that there are for, excuse me, Sales Cloud, the depth of skill out there for Marketing Cloud, it's not an easy hire. And so we frequently, and I had this conversation after last week's session with Lakshmi, is the resumes that I'm looking at, it's show me that you've got Marketing Cloud experience, and we're pretty broad in that often. So, having been certified, having gone through the Trailblazer groups, we count that as experience at our org. If you're able to compound that with practical use someplace else, because having the luxury of a team, we build in ramp time. So we're not looking to hire and immediately having you responsible for our email platform. We've got about a month before we've actively got you working on campaigns. You're learning through the first 3 weeks. You're shadowing somebody. You're peer reviewing what work somebody else is doing. Because as much as Salesforce would love to tell you that these platforms are all out of the box and fabulous, and they are, I can speak from experience when I can tell you that any org that I have run a marketing automation platform through, they are always customized. And so regardless of the skill set that you come to us with, you are going to have to learn our data and our structure and our integrations. And so, training up on the way that we use Marketing Cloud inside our organization is expected. And so I've yet to hire somebody that could walk into Bright Horizons and be ready to go day one. I don't think, even at that MVP status. And we have hired Salesforce Marketing Cloud consultants to come in and audit at great expense. And even there, we were doing upskilling on how it is all integrated and put together. So the leniency and the flexibility on what we're looking for in a resume is really, show some experience, not necessarily with this platform, but definitely show that you've made the effort to learn Marketing Cloud.
Yeah, I might add a comment. To that. Marketing Cloud's not a prescriptive platform. So what I mean by that is if you look at Sales Cloud, or you look at any of the clouds that Salesforce have, the data model is a very prescriptive data model. There's a way of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
But in Marketing Cloud, there's not so much of a way of doing things. In Marketing Cloud, we've got a platform that mirrors, or it reflects the environment that it needs to work in, because that's what marketing is all about. It's not a fixed thing. So you've often in Marketing Cloud got a foundation for how it maps across, and then you've got a lot of flexibility in how you're doing things.
Mm-hmm.
And that flexibility goes to the needs of the business. And just, Catherine, you mentioned earlier that there's, just looking at my notes, that there's, was it 11 million people in the database? You're segmenting on family, child, brand, purchase, reaction to food allergies. There's a whole host of things which is going to be so totally different to the next sports club or financial institution.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, everyone's different, and that's what marketing's about. You don't want to be the same as anyone else. You can't be, because the moment you are, you're going to be lost in the crowd. So you have to be different. Marketing Cloud lets you be different. And I come back around to what you're saying, I guess a long way short, is that you've got to show that you understand that too. And I guess that's part of what you're looking for.
Absolutely. It absolutely is. And I think that leads really nicely here into bringing value. So that is something that I'm looking for right from day one. I want to learn from what do you already know? What have you done elsewhere? Make maybe mistakes that we don't have to make, because we can learn what you learned without doing it ourselves. What people are you connected to that we're not, and you can make an introduction? What are the questions that you might ask as an outsider or somebody new to the business that we're too close to the situation to think of? And then be yourself. And this one we take really seriously. We call it Be You at BH. And hopefully it is systemic to the organization, this idea of being who you are. Because if we all try to be the same, then we are only representing a very small sliver of our audience. Whereas if we all be who we are, then we represent a much bigger portion of our audience. We serve all ages and stages, as we call it, and all socioeconomic levels, education levels, backgrounds, and heritages. So if we've got a mixed audience of employees, that helps us to better represent our audience. And so, being who you are is critical to your organization. I know it's critical to my team in mixing together all of that insight that we all bring from the lives that we lived and who we are. So can't encourage you more to bring that as a skill to whoever you're looking to work with. And likewise, you should frankly be evaluating them on their skill of being genuine right back to you. And if it's an organization that it's not, it's probably a place that you don't for the long term want to be, because they're not going to be taking care of your best interest. But it's a critical one that I don't think that has really come to the forefront until these last few years. This idea that you do have a lot of power in determining where you spend your time and energy, and to make sure that it's the right place for you. But always bring value to your organization and to the team that you're going to be on. It has absolutely nothing to do with title or level. It has to do with how you communicate, the respect that you show to others, and perhaps the way that you share ideas. But it has absolutely nothing to do with rank. And really, that is hopefully how your organization is going to be engaging with you, or that should be something that, as if you're evaluating a new organization, that should be something that you're inquiring about. Is leadership does not come with a particular title. You can lead from any place within the organization, and that's that value that you bring.
I'm absolutely loving this conversation, Catherine. I can see that Tammy's joined and she plays in space as well. But I'm actually putting together an article at the moment. One of the headings, it's about leadership and digital marketing. And one of my section headings is bring value. It's so true. We've been genuine and also been authentic. If you don't ask questions, if you don't get clarity around stuff, you hold stuff in. And then once you start holding stuff in, you get lost in the back of the conversation, because the conversation is going to move forward. If you're not expressing yourself, you're not shaping what's going to happen next. And that's how you bring value. So not understanding something's bringing value. I don't get it. We're trying to know how to use a story. What do you really mean by that? Standing back and not asking the questions doesn't help, because you're going to get to do the demo or the playback and the customer's going to be scratching their head and saying, they didn't really get me. They should have asked more questions earlier on. So your job is always to be asking questions, and that helps bring value. I feel like I've said too much, so zip it.
No, I couldn't agree more. And I'm going to take that one step further and that is, don't I said it right at the beginning. Don't ask the easy questions. Anybody can ask the easy questions. You have to be willing to ask the controversial questions, because that's where the true value comes. Is, everybody can say the positive comment and make whoever's project it is sound good and feel great. But if you're not asking the thing that's critical, you probably are not going to be putting out the best program that you can. Former boss used a phrase, and I've held tightly to it ever since, and that is friction polishes. It is okay to have a conversation where you don't all agree. And in fact, I've got a few folks that I work with where we are very good friends outside the organization, and the conversations that we have nothing to do with emotion or our personal situation of whether we're going to remain friends. We're asking the questions to make one another better and to make our programs better. So they are honest questions designed to get at that solution. And I love those conversations, because we can enter a room thinking different things or going potentially in different directions. But because we're asking the right hard questions of one another, we come out of that room in a far different place that is almost 100% of the time a better place than where we started, if any of us had have singularly gone down the path. And that's what I call bringing value into the programs that we create. So couldn't encourage you more. It's hard. I'm not going to say it's always easy, especially when you're getting started. But those are people that get recognized and get invited to the conversation, because you know that there's goodness that comes with them. And questions. There's so much more to talk about. I think so many of these things are all connected, regardless of the field that you go into, whether it's marketing or engineering or medicine. Frankly, so many of these things that we've talked about are important and are lifelong skills that constantly need to be trained and redeveloped. There's so much going on right now about this idea of soft skills, and you can train for the technical and hire for the soft skills, or now Gartner even is calling them smart skills. These are harder to train for, and they are more innate in people, but they can be trained. They can be learned behaviors that you will take everywhere, and they're also incredibly valuable in your personal life too, for the most part. So maybe not LinkedIn, but all of the other skills will help you in your personal life as well. Questions, thoughts?
I just want to add one point to that, Catherine. This is Lakshmi here again. I'm sorry. No, actually, the point what you raised, like irrespective of your position or experience or your background, if you just want to add value, that's a good thing. I'm trying to be a volunteer in the SFMC community, and I'm just trying to bring, a lot of ideas, which I have actually. It's for my selfishness. But I just want to ask you one thing. The other day when we were having a conversation, we just were talking about the volunteering opportunities in Marketing Cloud, right? So if you can share some insights on that, it would be really helpful for all the attendees. And yeah, whenever we ask that question, it's a certain no mostly. But yeah, I just want to hear if you have any different answer for that.
Sure.
That would be helpful.
And I'm going to speak to the United States here. Certainly a little more but I think it's much of this is applicable on a global basis. Look for organizations that clearly, align with your passion, something that you believe in. Get involved. Most organizations have some sort of marketing committee or responsibilities. They probably are sending email out to their donor base or to their subscribers. So there's an opportunity there to get involved with that program. I will tell you that it is probably not going to be Marketing Cloud that they are running. They are likely running something that is less expensive or a little more straightforward, like a HubSpot or a MailChimp. But all of those basics of email marketing or SMS marketing are all takeaways, and they all go straight onto your resume. And especially in today's world where cause marketing is seen as a very plus, definitely going to be worth the time that you would invest as being an advisor, or it could be a hands-on keyboard of actually sending the emails, depending on the organization. But that can be a great way to get some experience if you're looking for some.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I could go on. We did have some Q&A which we're going to roll into this session from last time, but we'll hold that for another session. I think there were some good questions there that deserve some time. One question and it's more of a technical question, so you might like to say, I'll get somebody else on the team to maybe address this, is you mentioned you've got Pardot, and you mentioned more for the B2B, and you've mentioned you've got Marketing Cloud, and obviously I guess it's more for the B2C. How do you unify that customer? How do you create a view of that customer when they might live in both platforms and manage that? It feels as though that could be a bigger question than just a 30-second or a short answer, and it could be something that we could dive more into later on. But I found that an interesting comment that you made, and I'm interested in that. I think you mentioned 54 million emails a year. So another question that's more of a technical, but from a transferable skill. And how do you work out the customer preferences? You also mentioned about the 14 million subscribers. There's a lot of customer preference data there with 54 million emails a year that goes down to frequency, management preferences. I think outside of Marketing Cloud, how would they be managed? What are the skills that people need, that you're looking for, that people need to bring to say, yeah, I get that sort of stuff, even if they're not Marketing Cloud in the past, but what are you looking for those? I guess we can ask that question because you're a people leader more than a technical doer. So what are the things that when you're looking for, they're obviously important to you. So what key things are you looking for those?
Yeah, so somebody that has some understanding of marketing strategy, that is understanding of brand, that is, following some I would say, developments on what is expected of a brand and how they're treated and how they're treating their database. Key amongst that these days is an understanding of privacy laws on a global basis. If you've got a global database, and certainly in the US on a state-by-state basis, where privacy laws do differ. And all of that, as you say, does need to be done through some semblance of a universal preference. I will be honest with you and say that we do not have a universal preference center at the present time. So we have 3 that basically we unify on the back end, and we transfer data between them to make sure that each one has the most up-to-date information around whether, an unsubscribe at the very, very simplest level, but then the preferences that somebody might have an interest in, or if we know that they have a child, we carry certain sets of data across through our back end and our enterprise data warehouse. So Salesforce does have a lot of information that it maintains, but not all of our information is maintained within Salesforce. It is not at present our system of record. And so we, through Marketing Cloud, will access information straight from Salesforce records, but we will also bring things in directly from our data warehouse in order to bring into a program. About, how do we reconcile Pardot and Marketing Cloud? We do have various contact types within Salesforce, and you could, in fact, be a lead in our database that we're marketing to via and interacting with via Pardot. But you might also be the employee of one of our clients. And so you have a record as the client's employee that we maintain different information. We market to you out of Marketing Cloud. And all of that is married up so that those two records would be tied together, and they're also under the account record. But they are two records that we maintain for those different purposes.
Thanks for sharing that. And I guess there's different skills required. What we said before, the skills are just varied and varied, and they're not necessarily Marketing Cloud, data warehouse, something that lives outside the sales platform, unless you're looking at a CDP, which is another story. But
yes. I spend a lot of my time working with members of our IT department and our data analyst team. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? I can let you guys start your day.
Thank you so much, Catherine.
Of course. And I'm happy to answer any questions if folks think of them after the fact, or you've got something personal you want to ask. I know after last week's session, Lakshmi and I were corresponding over LinkedIn. I'm happy to do that with anybody at any point. So, please feel free to reach out.
Oh, look, while we talk about Lakshmi, perseverance, Lakshmi, and these are transferable skills we just got to mention. Lakshmi is an example of asking questions and doing those things. It's got if you don't ask, people don't know. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of no's, because eventually you'll get a yes, and you just have to ask a few no's before you get that yes.
Absolutely.
So, what's the word for it? Tenacity. What's the word? There's a word for it, isn't it? Tenaciousness.
Yeah,
what is it?
Tenacious, I think, is a good one.
What's the word?
Tenacious.
Tenacious, yeah. Tenaciously making a difference. I think that's the key to doing it well. Anyway, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll get this recorded and shared with all the members. Thank you very much, and catch you later. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.